Metal shrieked as bulkheads collapsed, sparks spraying across shattered corridors. The emergency lights flickered in a frantic rhythm, casting a ghostly red over the smoke-choked halls. Bodies floated where gravity had failed, civilians, diplomats, engineers, caught in the chaos of an attack no one saw coming. Through the firestorm, a figure surged forward, not with panic, but with purpose. Green Lantern. That's what they called him, not because of some ancient Earth myth, but for the emerald gleam of his high-tech combat suit, a shining beacon amid the ruin. The jade armor pulsed with power as he kicked through a sealed door, boots magnetized to the trembling deck. He moved fast, scanning the life signs on his visor. One left. Faint. Buried deep. Control, this is Lantern. I've got one heat trace, Sector 9C, sending coordinates. His voice was calm, clipped, threaded with urgency. But no reply came. The comms were dead, jammed, or fried. Didn't matter. He was already running. Smoke curled around him, thick enough to choke. He activated his suit's filtration. The path ahead was blocked. Fire, fallen beams, a collapsed ceiling. He didn't stop. With a low grunt, he drew his plasma cutter, slicing through the wreckage in a single glowing arc. Behind the fallen panel, he found a room twisted by the blast. A shattered stasis pod sparked in the corner, and beside it, curled in a defensive position, a girl. Not a child. Not human, either. Her skin shimmered in shifting violet hues, smooth like glass and speckled with faint luminescence. Delicate fins curled around her ears, and her gown, once elegant, was torn and scorched. But her chest still rose, weak but steady. She was alive. Green Lantern moved fast, kneeling beside her. "Hey, you with me?" he asked, voice soft despite the chaos. No answer. Her eyes fluttered. Irises glowing faintly silver, but she was fading. Another explosion rocked the station. The floor groaned beneath them. He didn't have time for questions. Cradling her gently, he lifted her into his arms. The moment his suit registered her vitals, it sealed her in a protective field. The path back was worse now. More fire, more collapse. Alarms howled. The hull creaked. Life support was failing. He sprinted, back through the broken halls, leaping over ruptured pipes, dodging falling beams. His heads-up display flickered, oxygen low. Heat rising. Structural integrity, 14%. But he didn't stop. As he reached the final corridor, the docking bay doors began to shut. "No," he growled, pouring every last reserve of his suit's power into his boots. He launched forward, cleared the gap, and crashed through the threshold just as the airlock sealed behind him. The ship's bay was still intact, barely. His crew shouted over the intercom. "We've got him." Initiating jump. The station exploded behind them. In the medbay, Green Lantern laid the girl gently on the table as the ship jumped to light speed. Flames danced in the reflection of his visor as he stared at her, this alien mystery he'd dragged from the edge of death. "Who are you?" he whispered. And somewhere in the silence that followed, she stirred. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound as Green Lantern stared down at the alien girl. She lay unconscious on the medbay table, her skin now glowing faintly beneath the soft blue lights. The ship's artificial gravity kept her still, but her body was a puzzle, strange and alien, even in the most basic sense. "Damn it," Green Lantern muttered to himself, running a hand through his dark hair. He hadn't signed up for this. He wasn't a rescuer. He was a peacekeeper, a negotiator, a soldier. The mission had been simple: evacuate, extract, and leave. But instead, he'd brought back more than he could handle. His eyes flicked over to the medical console. The scans weren't helping much. She wasn't human, obviously, but she wasn't like any alien species he had encountered either. Her pulse was steady, her body healing itself at an accelerated rate. Yet her mind, that was another matter. The door to the medbay slid open with a soft hiss. Green Lantern didn't turn. He didn't need to. He already knew it was her. Any change? Came the voice of Mira, his chief tech officer, her voice a mix of exhaustion and curiosity. No, Green Lantern replied, still staring at the girl. She's tough, though. If anyone can survive a fire like that, it's her. Mira walked over, studying the scans on the console. She's not human, but I'll be damned if I've ever seen anything like her. Those energy readings are off the charts. She's got something inside her, something powerful. Great, Green Lantern said, running a hand over his face. Just what I needed. Mira arched an eyebrow. I think you should take a look at this. She tapped a few buttons, and a holographic display blinked to life, showing a series of strange symbols across the girl's skin. They shifted slowly, as though alive. What is that? Green Lantern asked, leaning in. Mira shook her head. I don't know. It's not any language I've ever seen. Not even close. But it's definitely intentional. Like some kind of marking. Before Green Lantern could respond, the girl's eyes fluttered open. Her pupils glowed faintly silver as she blinked, adjusting to the bright lights of the medbay. For a long moment, she just stared up at him, confusion in her eyes. Green Lantern didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to this, being a savior, having someone depend on him. This wasn't part of the job description. He cleared his throat. You're awake. The girl's lips parted, but her voice came out soft, almost musical. Where am I? Safe, Green Lantern answered, trying to keep it simple. You're on my ship. Her eyes searched his face, as if trying to find something. An answer, maybe, or recognition. But whatever she expected, she didn't find. She sat up slowly, a faint shimmer of energy surrounding her skin as she moved. You are, she began, her voice more measured now, as though weighing each word carefully. You saved me. Why? Green Lantern frowned. That was the question, wasn't it? Why had he saved her? I didn't want you to die, he said simply, though it wasn't the full answer. Not really. She studied him for a moment longer. And then, with a suddenness that made his heart skip a beat, she bowed her head in a gesture that was both regal and ancient. I invoke the ancient pact, she said, her voice firm. You have saved me. By tradition, I am yours. Green Lantern blinked, completely thrown off balance. He stepped back, almost tripping over his own feet. What? Her gaze never wavered. I am Lyrathe, princess of the Wydari Dominion. You are my savior. Therefore, I am bound to you, as per the pact. There was a beat of silence before Green Lantern managed to speak again, his voice a mix of disbelief and confusion. You've got to be kidding me. The airlock hissed as the doors closed behind them, sealing Green Lantern and Lyrathe inside the small, sterile room. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his mind racing. This was not how his day was supposed to go. He looked at her. She stood perfectly still, her posture regal, the faint shimmer of her alien skin still glowing in the dim light. She hadn't moved much since she invoked the ancient pact, a damnably formal declaration that had thrown him off more than the explosion he'd just survived. I don't understand, Green Lantern said, frustration creeping into his voice. You're saying I'm your what husband now? Lyrathe's gaze softened, but only just. Not husband. Savior, she corrected, her voice measured, as though she had already expected this reaction. By our customs, the one who saves a life binds themselves to the one they've saved, as equals. It is an ancient bond, one that holds until the debt is paid or the bond is broken. Yeah, great, I'm totally on board with that. He rubbed his temple, trying to process it all. But that's not the real problem, is it? You said you were a princess, so where's your security team? Where's your army? What the hell happened back there? The words barely left his lips when the ship shook, hard. The alarm system screamed to life, red lights flashing as the hull groaned. "Get to your stations," came the voice of Mira over the intercom. "We've got company." Before Green Lantern could react, the lights flickered out entirely. Darkness fell across the ship, and in that silence, a sharp sound echoed. Clank, clank, clank. Footsteps. No, more like the rhythm of something heavy and deliberate. Lyrathe's eyes flickered. She moved so fast, it was like she vanished into the shadows. Green Lantern barely had time to raise an eyebrow before she reappeared in the doorway, a sleek blade now in her hand, shining silver, almost organic in shape, yet deadly sharp. "They're here," she said quietly, her voice laced with cold precision. "Assassins. They were sent for me." Green Lantern froze. "You knew someone was after you." "I knew," she said with a deadly calm. "But I did not expect them to find me so soon. You do not understand. I am a target. My death would be the beginning of a war." He cursed under his breath. He hadn't signed up for a diplomatic crisis, let alone an intergalactic assassination plot. The door to the room burst open with a deafening crash. 3 figures in black armor stormed in, each of them wearing a helmet with a jagged red stripe running across it. Their weapons were unlike anything Green Lantern had ever seen. Guns that shimmered with energy, unlike the standard plasma blasters he was used to. But what stood out most were the curved knives they carried, made of the same dark material that reflected no light. "Stand down," Green Lantern shouted, his voice laced with authority. "We don't want any trouble." The leader of the assassins stepped forward, his voice low and guttural. "You should have let her burn. Now you will die with her." Without another word, the 3 assassins lunged, and Green Lantern was already moving. His suit flared to life as he slammed his fist into the first attacker's chest, sending him flying across the room. The second tried to dodge, but Green Lantern was too fast. He drew his plasma blade from his side, deflecting the incoming strike with a shower of sparks. Lyrathe was already in motion too. Her blade moved in a blur, cutting through the air with unnatural grace. She was fast, dangerously fast, each strike aimed precisely, cutting through the assassin's armor like paper. But her movements weren't random. They were deliberate, honed from years of training. The third assassin went for Green Lantern's blind side, but Lyrathe was faster. Her blade sliced through the air, and the assassin crumpled to the floor in a heap. Green Lantern stood still for a moment, catching his breath. He shot a look at Lyrathe. "You're not just a princess, are you?" She sheathed her blade with a practiced flick, her eyes narrowing. "No, I'm something far more dangerous than that." The leader of the assassins groaned, struggling to get to his feet. Green Lantern approached him, his voice cold. "Who sent you?" The assassin sneered, blood dripping from his lip. "You'll learn soon enough, Green Lantern. There are forces at play that you cannot begin to comprehend. The Idari Dominion is already crumbling." Before Green Lantern could respond, the assassin's eyes glazed over. His body went limp, a poison dart already sinking into his neck. Green Lantern cursed again. This was just the beginning. The ship drifted through the void, its engines humming steadily, but the tension inside was anything but calm. Green Lantern stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at the endless stretch of stars. His arms were crossed, and his mind was racing. They'd barely survived the assassin's ambush. But that was only the beginning. Lyrathe was right. Her life meant more than just a simple rescue. It meant war. His gaze flicked to the figures standing silently behind him. Lyrathe's presence was impossible to ignore. She had barely spoken since the fight. Even now, she stood in the corner of the room, her posture rigid, her eyes far away, focused on something only she could see. The princess, he'd learned, was no stranger to danger. The elegance of her demeanor might make her look delicate, but there was a sharpness in her eyes, a quiet fury that made him wonder just how much she had seen in her short life. "What's the plan now?" Green Lantern asked, his voice low but edged with frustration. Lyrathe turned, meeting his gaze. For a moment, Neither of them spoke. Then, with a soft sigh, she spoke. "There is a place, a sanctuary, hidden within the ruins of my family's estate. My cousin, Lady Vesha, is there. She is loyal to the old ways. If we can reach her, she can help us." "Help us with what?" Green Lantern frowned. "We're already 2 steps behind whoever is trying to kill you." "The assassins, they were not merely hired mercenaries," she said, her voice steady, but her gaze hardened. "They were sent by the Dominion's ruling council. I was betrayed, Green Lantern. My life, my very survival, threatens everything they've built." He turned to face her fully. "So what's the real play here then? If your life's so valuable, why are they after you?" Lyrathe's expression darkened, and for the first time, he saw real pain in her eyes. "Because I was supposed to die. I was exiled, outcast. The council believed I would fall in that fire, but I survived. Now they will use me, or destroy me, before I can take my rightful place." Green Lantern's stomach twisted. This was bigger than he thought. Much bigger. "So we go to your cousin's place. What then? What's the next move?" he pressed. "I don't know yet," she admitted, her voice soft. "But I do know this. Vesha has always been loyal to the old ways, and she believes in the ancient codes. If anyone can help me navigate this, it's her." Green Lantern's hand hovered over the comms panel, but before he could speak, the ship's sudden lurch interrupted him. The alarms blared again, a sharp, shrill sound that reverberated through the ship. "Not again," Green Lantern muttered, sprinting to the control panel. He slammed a hand on the console. "Mira, what's going on?" The voice crackled through the speakers. "We're being pulled into a gravitational field, Green Lantern. A planet. Unnamed. Just ahead. Its magnetic pulse is interfering with our systems. We need to make an emergency landing." "What kind of planet?" Green Lantern snapped. "I don't know, but it's not on any charts. It's off the grid." Mira's voice sounded strained, like she was already working on multiple problems at once. "It's not a choice at this point. If we don't land, we'll crash." He didn't hesitate. "Brace for impact." The ship groaned as it descended, its hull protesting as the atmosphere began to pull at it. Outside, the stars became streaks of light, distorted by the powerful gravitational force. Green Lantern gritted his teeth, willing the ship to hold together long enough for them to survive. Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. The ship jolted again, harder this time. He could feel the weight of Lyrathe's stare, but he didn't have time to look at her. They were heading straight for the surface of the planet, and whatever lay down there was anything but welcoming. The crash was sudden, violent, shaking every bone in his body, rattling the entire ship like a toy in a child's hand. Green Lantern slammed against the control panel, his vision blurring as the world around him spun. His suit flickered, dimming, and he fought to stay conscious. As the dust settled and the systems flickered back online, Green Lantern groaned and lifted his head. What the hell just happened? The answer was clear when the emergency lights finally came on. They had landed in the heart of a ruined city. The remains of alien structures, broken and crumbled, sprawled out before them. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. And standing in the wreckage, waiting for them, was a figure cloaked in shadow. The ship's hull groaned as Green Lantern staggered to his feet. The emergency lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows over the broken consoles and shattered glass. His head was pounding, and his suit's systems were still struggling to come back online, but his instincts were sharp. He turned to Lyrathe, who was already standing, her eyes narrowed, scanning the dark landscape outside the broken viewport. The remains of an ancient city lay in ruins before them, its jagged buildings towering like forgotten titans. The wind carried dust and the smell of rust. Nothing alive in sight, just the desolation of a place long abandoned. Yet there was something else in the air, something almost alive in the silence. "Where are we?" Green Lantern asked, wiping the blood from a cut on his brow. Lyrathe didn't answer right away. Her gaze was fixed on something in the distance, far beyond the wreckage of the city. Her expression was unreadable, but her body was taut, ready to spring into action. She was waiting for something. "This is the ruin," she said finally, her voice low and tight with emotion. "The last of my people's great capital, a place we swore never to return to." "The ruin?" Green Lantern repeated, a chill creeping into his spine. "Sounds like a fun vacation spot." Lyrathe didn't even look at him. "It's not just a city. It was the heart of the Vidari Dominion. Once we ruled 1,000 worlds from here." She paused, her face darkening. "And now, it's all just this." Green Lantern's gaze drifted to the towering spires around them, their broken edges jutting up like teeth. The city was an ancient puzzle, its architecture strange and alien, shapes that seemed to shift in the dying light. He could almost feel the weight of history pressing against him, a palpable force in the air. Something had happened here, a war, a fall, an empire reduced to nothing. Lyrathe stepped forward, her movements cautious, yet sure. "There is someone here," she muttered, more to herself than to him. Her eyes flicked back toward the wrecked ship. "I hoped I wouldn't have to face them." Green Lantern followed her gaze, trying to see what she saw in the distant shadows. For a long moment, the world held its breath. And then, a figure stepped out from behind one of the broken pillars. Tall, cloaked in dark fabric, their face hidden beneath the shadow of a hood. Their movements were fluid, almost predatory, as they crossed the ruined streets, their presence commanding. Green Lantern's hand went instinctively to his sidearm, but Lyrathe's voice stopped him. "Don't," she said sharply, her eyes never leaving the figure. "That's Vesha." Green Lantern blinked, confused. "Wait, Lady Vesha. You mean your cousin?" Lyrathe nodded stiffly, her jaw set. "She's the one I've come to find, and the one who I fear may have betrayed me." As the figure drew closer, the air around them seemed to hum, charged with a strange energy. The wind whipped around, stirring the dust, but the figure moved like they were part of the storm itself, an unstoppable force. Finally, they stopped in front of Lyrathe, their voice low and cold. "You shouldn't have come back, cousin. The ruin does not forgive." Green Lantern tensed, watching the exchange between the two. There was no warmth in Lady Vesha's tone, no familial recognition, just ice. "Vesha," Lyrathe said, her voice a mix of defiance and sadness. "I need your help. The Council has sent assassins after me." They are right to," Lady Vesha interrupted, her voice like a whip. "You are a threat. You always have been." Her hooded eyes flickered toward Green Lantern. "And now you bring this one, the Green Lantern himself. What do you think you'll achieve, Lyrathe? You're playing a dangerous game." Lyrathe's hand tightened on the hilt of her blade, the ancient weapon pulsing with a faint light. "I came for your help, Vesha, not for your judgment." Green Lantern felt the tension building, the air thick with unspoken animosity. This wasn't just a family reunion. This was a battle, a reckoning, and he was caught in the middle. "You've always been weak," Lady Vesha spat, taking the step forward. "But now you've made your choice, and there's no going back." Green Lantern stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Whatever your past is, we need help. There's no time for games." Vesha turned her eyes on him, her lips curling into a smile that was anything but friendly. "Oh, Green Lantern, you think you can just waltz into our affairs and solve them? You're out of your depth." Green Lantern raised an eyebrow. "Well, guess it's time to prove that wrong." The wind howled through the skeletal remains of the city, kicking up clouds of dust that swirled around Green Lantern and the two women. The ruins stretched out before them like the bones of some forgotten giant, its crumbling walls a testament to the ancient civilization that once thrived here. Yet now, the silence was deafening, broken only by the faint creaking of metal and the occasional scrape of loose stone. Lady Vesha's words hung heavy in the air, charged with disdain and accusation. The tension between her and Lirithe was palpable, something deep, something old, and Green Lantern, stuck between them, could feel it pressing on him from all sides. "You still think you can change things, don't you?" Lady Vesha's voice was quiet but sharp, her words like ice. She looked at her cousin with a kind of pity that cut deeper than any weapon. "The Council has made its decision. You cannot undo what's been done. You cannot erase your mistakes." Lirithe's face was hard, the flickering uncertainty that had been there earlier gone. Now her eyes were cold, resolute. "I didn't come back to undo the past, Vesha. I came back to survive, to fight." Green Lantern took a step forward, his presence impossible to ignore. "Enough talk," he said, his voice cutting through the charged air. "We don't have time for family drama. We're being hunted. We need to act." For a moment, it seemed as if Lady Vesha might dismiss him, but then her gaze flicked to him, her eyes narrowing. "You think your power can solve everything, don't you, Green Lantern? That you can come in here with your shiny ring and fix things, but you don't understand. Not here, not in the ruin." "Then explain it to me," Green Lantern shot back. His patience was wearing thin, but he kept his voice steady. "What's so special about this place? And why the hell would you bring us here if it's a death trap?" Lady Vesha's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Because I had to see you for myself. You, the great Green Lantern, trying to save a princess who was already lost the moment she turned her back on her people. This place, it isn't just a city. It's a prison, a tomb, and you've just stepped into it." Lyrithe's fists clenched at her sides, but she didn't respond. Instead, she turned toward the heart of the ruins, where the faint glow of ancient energy pulses flickered like dying embers. Green Lantern followed her gaze, his instincts telling him this was no coincidence. "What's down there?" Green Lantern asked, gesturing to the darkened path ahead. He could feel the pull of something, some unseen force, that seemed to radiate from the depths of the city. Lady Vesha's eyes flickered toward the same path, but then turned back to Lirithe, her voice thick with warning. "That is the heart of the ruin, the source of everything that was, everything that is. You'll find no answers down there, only death." But Lirithe was already moving forward, her steps sure. "We're going," she said firmly, her tone final. "You can stay and die here if you wish." Lady Vesha didn't move at first. Her gaze was a mixture of frustration and something darker, something buried deep. "You are a fool, cousin," she said quietly, almost to herself. But then, without another word, she turned and followed them, her cloak trailing behind her like a shadow. As they descended into the ruins, the air grew thick with the scent of old stone and decay. The path before them wound through towering columns, their once majestic surfaces now marred by cracks and deep scars. The energy from the heart of the city pulsed louder now, as if it were alive, calling them closer. Green Lantern's boots echoed on the stone, the only sound in the stillness, but his senses were on high alert. He could feel the weight of the place pressing on him, almost as if the very walls were watching him. They reached a large chamber, its ceiling lost to darkness. At its center was a massive circular platform, surrounded by intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change in the dim light. The center of the platform glowed faintly with a strange ethereal energy, pulsing in time with the beat of Green Lantern's own heart. Lirithe approached it without hesitation, her hand reaching out to the platform. As her fingers brushed the surface, the air seemed to crackle, and for a brief moment, the ground trembled beneath their feet. "This is where it began," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "And this is where it ends." Green Lantern took a cautious step forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his ring. Whatever this place was, it was far from ordinary. And he had the uneasy feeling that whatever happened next would change everything. The chamber was alive. Every stone, Every crack in the walls hummed with an ancient, unsettling energy. Green Lantern felt it the moment he stepped onto the platform, like the entire city was watching, waiting for something to happen. The pulse of power radiated from the center, as if the very heart of the ruin was beating, and with every beat, the atmosphere grew heavier. The air was thick with the scent of decay, but beneath it there was something older, something alive. Laritha stood at the center of the platform, her hand hovering just above the glowing surface. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the energy below her, but her expression was unreadable. For the first time since Green Lantern had met her, she seemed distant, caught between two worlds. She was no longer just the princess he had rescued. She was something else, something connected to this place. "We shouldn't be here," Green Lantern said, his voice low, tinged with warning. He was standing just outside the circle, his ring already glowing with a faint green light, ready for whatever might come. But it was as if the room had swallowed all sound, and his words barely seemed to matter. Laritha didn't respond. Her gaze remained fixed on the platform, as if drawn into its depths by some invisible force. Slowly, she lowered her hand, allowing her fingers to brush the surface. The moment her skin touched the glowing symbols, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low hum filled the chamber, growing louder with every passing second. The carvings on the platform seemed to come to life, shifting and twisting, like they were being rewritten in real time. The air crackled with energy, and Green Lantern could feel the very fabric of reality around them warping. His ring flared, its light cutting through the darkness. But the power here was different. It wasn't something his ring could easily control. "Laritha," he called out, stepping toward her. But before he could reach her, a wave of energy erupted from the platform. It shot upward in a brilliant arc of light, knocking him back. He hit the ground hard, his ring's protective shield flaring just in time to soften the blow, but the force of the blast still sent shockwaves through his body. As he scrambled to his feet, his eyes shot to Laritha. She was still standing, but now her body was surrounded by a swirling vortex of light and dark. Her form flickered, distorting like a mirage in the desert heat, and then, with a sudden crack, the vortex exploded outward, sending another shockwave through the chamber. Green Lantern raised his hand, his ring glowing brighter now. He focused, creating a protective shield around him and Laritha, blocking the energy from overwhelming them. But his mind raced. What was happening? This wasn't just a power surge. This was something far more dangerous. From the edge of the chamber, Lady Vesha's voice rang out, cold and commanding. "You shouldn't have come here, Laritha. This place, this is where your ancestors sealed their fate. And now you're unlocking it. The power that lies beneath the ruin isn't meant to be wielded by anyone, least of all you." Laritha's eyes snapped open, her face now bathed in the eerie light. "I'm not trying to wield it, Vesha," she said, her voice strained, yet defiant. "I'm trying to understand it. I need to know the truth." The ground beneath them shook again, more violently this time, and the chamber walls groaned, cracks spreading through the stone like veins of fire. The glowing symbols on the platform pulsed erratically, growing stronger, faster, as if they were feeding on Laritha's presence. "You are too weak for this," Vesha sneered, stepping forward, her hand rising. A dark energy coalesced in her palm, thin threads of black light flickering around her fingers like a dark fire. "This is your destiny, cousin. Accept it." But Laritha's eyes flared with a sudden, intense power. She raised her own hand, and a bright beam of light erupted from her palm, meeting the darkness of Vesha's energy. The two forces collided with a thunderous roar, shaking the foundations of the chamber. For a moment, everything stood still. The air crackled with tension, the platform glowing brighter and brighter, as if it were preparing to erupt. Green Lantern's ring flared again, the light green against the chaotic backdrop of dark energy. He could feel the battle unfolding before him. Two powers locked in a clash, and neither side willing to yield. But in that moment, Green Lantern understood. This wasn't just about the ruin. This was about control, about who would wield the power of the Videri dominion, and whether Lyrithe would be the one to reclaim her birthright, or whether Vesha would use it to end her for good. And the fate of all those worlds, of everything they had fought for, was now hanging in the balance. Green Lantern's ring flared with blinding intensity, a protective shield of green light radiating from his body, but it did little to calm the storm brewing before him. Lyrithe and Lady Vesha were locked in a fierce clash of energy, the air thick with the weight of their power. The room trembled, the walls cracking, ancient stone splintering as dark and light forces collided in a battle of wills. Lyrithe's eyes were wild, her energy surging, a force of nature against the dark tide that Vesha unleashed. The ground beneath them was shaking, the platform pulsing with each strike, as though it were alive, feeding on their conflict. In that moment, Green Lantern realized that the ruin wasn't just a place, it was a weapon, a sleeping titan waiting for the right hands to awaken it. And now, those hands were battling for control. "You're a fool, Lyrithe," Vesha shouted, her voice sharp, a whip cutting through the chaos. Her dark energy surged forward, tendrils of shadow lashing out toward Lyrithe, but the princess deflected them with a wave of her hand, sending them spiraling into the air like flares in the night. "You've always underestimated me, Vesha." Lyrithe's voice was fierce, tinged with the desperation of someone fighting for their life, and for everything they had lost. "You never understood the truth of the ruin. It's not about power, it's about redemption." Green Lantern watched as the two women battled, their movements fluid but full of an unspoken history, a history he was only beginning to understand. Every strike, every burst of energy, was personal, a reflection of years of betrayal, secrets, and unhealed wounds. He didn't know how long they could keep this up. The chamber was already crumbling around them. He knew he had to act. Focusing his ring, Green Lantern shot forward, creating a massive construct of green energy, a barrier of light that spread out between the two women. The force was immense, slamming into the wall of dark energy, just as Vesha launched another vicious attack. "Enough." Green Lantern's voice rang out, his tone commanding, his green aura flaring. "This isn't the way to resolve this. We need to work together. This isn't just about you two. It's about everyone who's been affected by the ruin's fall." Vesha's eyes narrowed, her dark energy swirling around her like a storm. She sneered at Green Lantern. "You think you can solve this with a speech? You don't understand. The ruin chooses its master, and I will not let her have it." Lyrithe stepped forward, her energy flickering around her like a crown of fire. "Then you've already lost. The ruin is a part of me. I don't need to control it, Vesha. I need to heal it." The words hit Green Lantern like a jolt of electricity. There was no more time to talk. Whatever happened next, it was clear that this was the moment, the point of no return. The chamber was falling apart, its ancient structure unable to withstand the forces at play. With a surge of will, Green Lantern raised his hand, focusing every bit of his energy into his ring. He summoned all his strength, creating an enormous green construct of light that wrapped around both women, a glowing tether that restrained their powers, just long enough to give them a chance to stop. Lyrithe, breathing heavily, looked at him with wide eyes. "What are you doing?" "I'm stopping this madness," Green Lantern said, his voice unwavering. "We can fight, together, or this place will kill us all." The world seemed to pause. The air was still, the chamber frozen in time. Vesha's eyes flickered with something. Anger, fear, maybe both. But then, slowly, she lowered her hand, the dark energy subsiding around her. Lyrithe stood still, her gaze on the platform beneath them. She reached out, her fingers brushing the stone, and for a moment, everything was quiet. The pulse of the ruin began to calm, the glowing symbols fading from blinding intensity to a soft glow. "It's not too late," she whispered. "We can still save this." Vesh's expression softened for the briefest of moments. "You think this can be fixed?" "I do," Laritha said, her voice steady now. "But only if we put our differences aside and rebuild." Green Lantern stepped back, allowing them both space. He watched as the two women, once enemies, stood side by side, their differences momentarily forgotten, as the power of the ruin began to settle into something else, something better. As the energy in the chamber slowly dimmed, a new sense of calm began to settle over them, like the weight of a storm finally lifting. Green Lantern's ring flickered faintly, its green glow still present, but now it seemed to pale in comparison to the balance being restored before him. And in that moment, he realized the truth. Sometimes, saving the galaxy wasn't about defeating an enemy. It was about finding a way to heal the wounds that divided them.